Hello, this is Dr. Garret, Castleberry, Associate Professor and Program Director of Communication, Media, and Ethics at Mid-America Christian University. I'm here to talk about a new option in our online accelerated course, COM 4103, Special Topics in Media Studies. The online version of this course takes a dynamic and challenging approach by engaging students with a combination of communication, media studies, mythology, and even comics studies. And I'm going to once again preview the primary texts for the book, but I'm going to add a caveat, a new layer that we're adding to the course for this cycle, an opportunity for you, the student, to engage in an ever-expanding universe of key readings for the course. So let me start with a reminder of what this course entails. We're going to be looking at really the intersection of mythic media in America. And one of the mass mediums that we're going to focus heavily on in this course is the visual literary genre of comic books. A contemporary phenomenon, yes, super popular, no pun intended, but with a rich and deep history in the U.S. and even globally. And so to aid us in this journey, we're going to look at a pair of texts. First, let me remind us of a book that is focused on the comic book medium, and that is Superhero Comics from Bloomsbury and author Chris Gavler. And so we're going to use this as a historical text to walk us through early comic book history to the emergence of an actual sub-discipline or disciplinary interest, maybe interdisciplinary interest, we could say, that is to say, comic studies. And we'll explore several avenues of comics and how they impact us. Meanwhile, what sounds like a book about superheroes, but is really a book about American mythology, The Myth of the American Superhero, from John Shelton Lawrence and Robert Jewett. This is going to give us a wonderful flavor of how certain types of heroism get birthed and evolve in American culture. Often a predominantly masculine flavor of heroism, but there are a couple of important chapters in here that deal with heroines and some of their traditional roles. I love this as a text. I love this as a way to think about how we create culture in this country, but also how it influences globally. And I think there's plenty of room for us to update our commentaries on changes we're seeing and some progressive signs and increased emphasis on female representation and certainly other types of heroes in culture. Now, traditionally, this course is rounded out with a graphic novel, that is to say, a comic book story form that is bound together, telling a singular type of story. And traditionally, our text of choice is Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which has been released in numerous versions, right, across the decades, plural, since its release. Continues to be a very influential work, quite popular, and possibly quite controversial. I don't know. We'll dig into it and check that out. There will be some supplemental materials that we present in this course in the form of some video podcast, all right, vlog style, vlogcast, where we dissect The Dark Knight and talk about its many rich themes. However, based on continued student feedback in the course, we are looking at an exciting future where we continue to diversify suggested readings for students, and we're going to work on building new layers of supplemental materials to speak to those alternative texts. All right. So, for example, feedback that we've received in other courses include comments like, why don't we expand the types of texts that we offer in terms of the comic or graphic novel reading? And that is absolutely something we're looking to do. The only reason we've kept it limited in the past is because an accelerated course only gives us so much time on one hand. On the other hand, comics can become, I guess we could say, expensive the more we accumulate. But even more so, some comics and yes, many graphic novels even, despite being quote-unquote standalone stories, actually carry with them a burden of heavy continuity, to use a phrase passed around in the industry. Continuity being those overlapping and increasing and often convoluted storylines. And so sometimes it's hard to just grab a book and jump right in when there's so much backstory or back history or information seeking that's required to be able to comprehend what's going on in the main narrative. That's a challenge. That's a challenge that the industry has always faced for much of its contemporary existence. In fact, we're seeing that now as a problem with so many of these movie translations and even some of these experimental TV or televisual programs, right? This is all material we can talk about. Weekly discussions, student posts, your feedback. We're excited about it. But here is an alternative reading. And the purpose of this video, talk about a countdown, right? I've saved the primary message for the very end. Shame on me, but that's okay. If you're invested in the course, if you're invested in the material, then you'll be invested in this message. If you either aren't interested in following The Dark Knight Returns, or if you are feeling aggressive and aggressively interested in pursuing more than one book, starting this course, we are going to be building new material, a new season of our Special Topics in Media podcast, which is a kind of recorded lecture conversation on key materials. We are going to do a multi-part series looking at a different standalone DC Comics book that is bigger and broader than just fitting into the Batman universe. And so we're going to look at Mark Waid and Alex Ross's Kingdom Come. This was released in the mid-90s, toward the end of not only the decade, but the century. And for that reason, it has some extremely fascinating themes that it carries through. It's reflecting on not only its characters and their world, but really it operates as a meta-reflection on the nature of myth building and comic book history in some ways. It's pretty action-packed, and it also carries some very rich, very interesting, very ambiguous at times allegorical themes that at times cross over into quasi-religious themes. And so it might spark some apropos conversation. Kingdom Come is essentially a 4-part book, not unlike The Dark Knight. And when you acquire the graphic novel, it's broken into chapters instead of being released as different books as they originally were. You're getting the whole book. And so what we'll do is tackle a different chapter, or a different book rather, each week. And that will give us a chance to reflect, kind of explore the text deeper. And this one is certainly striking. This is one of the most, Dark Knight Returns as well as Kingdom Come, two of the most influential comic works in DC Comics. And they're relatively recent. I believe they're going to read in a very contemporary way for you, despite increasing in age, right, with each year that passes. Kingdom Come is very fascinating, and more than that, I think one of the rich rewards that you'll find in the book is that it has a very painterly, expressionistic art style. The characters are kind of portrayed in a kind of mythic realism, and that artwork alone is going to be memorable, iconic, striking, and hopefully add to your experience. So please remember, hear my words. This new book is not required for the course, Kingdom Come. What we're instead offering now is the beginning of what will become a DIY experience. And that means a pick your own superhero adventure mode, or collect them all, right? Because isn't that what comics is all about? And so we will have materials available for you to indulge and appreciate the Dark Knight, but we're now opening it up to expand into using Kingdom Come as a material. And so we'll be able to bounce between these conversations. You could acquire both of these books, or you could just select one and go with it, okay? And at each iteration of the course that we offer online in the future, we're going to continue down this path and expand those options, all right? I look forward to exploring these texts with you. Hopefully we'll have some surprises, maybe some guest voices that help lend credence to the power of these texts, to conversations about American mythology and the culture that we co-create together in our COM 4103 course experience, special topics in media studies, comic studies, mythic media in America. Look forward to exploring these texts with you and more. Thank you.